Alright, hi everyone, welcome to my first design stream. This is my first design live stream. It's called Design by Sana, and in these live streams I'm going to be documenting my UX design journey and just kind of showing you how I grow as a designer, and I hope to create some really cool projects with you guys on stream, and I'm gonna walk you through how I create these projects on stream. And I'm also gonna be learning a lot from you guys, and I hope I'll be able to teach you guys something, and I hope I'll be able to learn a lot from you. So getting started, again, like I said, this is Design by Sana, and I'm just showcasing everything UX design, and I'm going to show you how I do UX design research and also implementing high fidelity prototypes. So we're gonna first start out by going over what UX UI design is. So UX UI design, or user experience and user interface design, is defined as how a user interacts with and experiences a product, system, or service. And so what does any of that mean? So basically, like if you take Tinder for example, right? There's somebody that came up with how Tinder works. So they came up with how users navigate through the screen, how users swipe left, swipe right to navigate through the app, and they also came up with how the app looks and how everything functions. And that's basically UX UI design in a nutshell. So it's like, you come up with how the front end works and how even just like users navigate through an app or a system. And the UX part is more like, how users experience the app. So it's user experience. So it's like how they go through the app, how they function, how it functions. And then the UI, or the user interface design, is how things look. So how do the buttons look? How does the text look? How do things show up? So that's kind of the general difference between UX UI, but usually most of the time they're interlinked together. And when you go in the job market, a lot of times when they have like a UX design position listed, it's they include a lot of like UI design skills in there as well. And UX design is it's pretty much used interchangeably with UI, but if you find like a UI designer role, a lot of times you can't interchange that, and it's like specifically for UI, and they want somebody who's really good at like graphics and UI work. And there's like now an up and coming term called product design, which is basically the same thing as UX UI design, but it's more but product design is a little bit broader, and product designers are also responsible for kind of the implementation of the design as well. So they have to see the implementation of the design to the very end as well. And I personally would describe myself as a product designer because, well, one, a senior UX designer told me that that's what I should do, and you always want to listen to your seniors. And two, also, I think it just kind of represents my skill set the best, especially now with like all the projects that I'm doing and some of the projects that I'm leading. I would say I have like some management responsibilities now, so I would definitely brand myself as a product designer. So you might be asking, okay, what's the point of UX design? It's great, Sana, you just told me what UX design is, what product design is, but why do I need to know any of this? Why does any of this matter? Well, today, if you look at UX UI design, it's like a huge and up and coming field because there's really a need for it. It came into being very organically. So like a few years ago, like there wasn't really a term for this type of work, and people would not have like a term to describe like, okay, this is UX design. But the field really came into being organically because there was a need for it, and also it is such it just completely streamlines the whole production creation cycle of a product. So, it's basically like blueprinting. So, before you start developing a product or a service, okay, this is exactly how it's going to work and exactly how people will move through it and exactly how this product or service is meant to be used. It can provide like a really clear direction, and it saves a lot of time and money for development, and this goes double for anything digital, and that's often why you see a lot of developers and UX designers working together as well. So, there's like a variety of roles you can do in UX, and people have this misconception. A lot of junior UX designers are always like, oh, but I don't have visual skills. I don't know how to like work with Figma really well. But that's like such a misconception, because in UX design, there's like such a variety of roles because the field is so broad. Like, you can be a generalist if you want. Like, I personally am more of a generalist, so I know like a lot of UX research stuff, but I also have a really good handle on like the UI side of things and Figma. But a lot of designers are specific and have like specific jobs. Like, there'll be people that are specifically only for research, or people that only want to do strategy, or people that only do UX copywriting. So you can kind of go whichever way you would like. But a common trend that we see a lot of times in the UX design industry, very similar to software development, is like people will start out as UX design generalists, and they'll do a lot of like hands-on design work for the first few years of their career, and then they'll go more into design lead roles, or design leadership, design strategy, or even become like project managers. But that's kind of just the general trajectory or path. But point is, the field is broad enough, and there's room for anybody in the field. So personally, I kind of stumbled on UX design unintentionally. So when I was in college, I was trying to become a computer developer, or a software developer, you could say, and I was in school for that. But while I was in school, I really just felt like, okay, I don't know if software development is really the right path for me, because I feel like I'm just like lacking a creative outlet, and I don't know if I want this to be my job. So I went and I talked to my college counselor, and she told me about UX design. And as soon as I heard, the term, like, just something clicked in me, and I knew like, oh, I should definitely look into this. So I went in and I looked at UX design, and I was just like, oh, I really, really like this. And I've started pursuing UX design, and I've never looked back. I feel like UX design is kind of perfect for me, because the UX design process allows me to really engage my logical and my creative side. And I'm currently like a junior UX designer. Right now I'm currently working on a few freelance projects, and I'm actually actually managing those projects. So I'm not only doing the design, but I'm also working with developers and managing those projects as well. While I was in my last year of college, and last year in my design major, I ended up working as a designer at a design agency, and I was a design contractor there, and I worked on a few projects with them, and I learned a lot. And then shortly after I graduated from college, I worked as a product designer at a fintech startup called Zillion for a while. And now I am doing some of my own projects, and I'm also helping out at an AI startup that's working on AI for an AI program for business enterprise, and it's called Flow. So for this stream, I'm going to show you some of the main UX design methods. So I'm going to go over the design thinking method, the double diamond method, the agile and scrum method, and then I'm also going to show you some of the basics of design prototyping, and we're going to go over some of the basics of Figma and Adobe XD. So getting right into it, the design thinking method has around like 5 steps. 5 or 6 if you count implementation as a step. So first you start out with the empathize step, and this step's all about like really understanding your users and who you're designing for, and kind of understanding where they're coming from. So during this step you could do a lot of things like user interviews, domain research, empathy maps, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot more, but those are some of the main methods that you could take at this step. And then the second step of the process is the define step, and this is where you kind of define the problem as well as who your target users are. So you could be doing personas, journey maps, user stories, problem statements, all sorts of things there. And then you have the third step, which is ideation, and usually you do wireframing, sketches, crazy eights, user flows, and then you create a prototype, and this could be a low fidelity or a high fidelity prototype. And then after that you usually will do some testing, so you would be doing usability testing or maybe A/B testing, and then after that you make changes, and then you can implement your design. Something that I would like you to keep in mind is if you don't really understand just quite yet what user interviews are or empathy maps are or how to do those, don't worry about it. I'm going to go over that in detail in later streams and show you how to do those things. Also, just something to keep in mind, a lot of times in the real world when you're working on projects, the design process is pretty non-linear, so you won't do step 1, step 2, step 3. You might be going, it might look more like step 1, step 3, and then step 1 again, but that's just something to keep in mind. And then we have the double diamond process, the double diamond method, and it's basically, you have the problem end, and then you have the solution end, and you have the problem definition in the middle, and these 3 points create like a double diamond, and you have the discover, define, develop, and deliver stages. So, the discover and define stage, here you would be doing domain research, user research, empathy maps, journey mapping, user stories, storyboards. You kind of get the idea. It's very similar to the design thinking method. And then at the develop and deliver stage of the diamond, you would be doing wireframing, sketching, crazy eights, prototyping, testing, whatnot, and you kind of get to the solution end here. And again, just keep in mind that the process is usually non-linear, and you probably will be going back and forth between different steps in any real world scenario. And so then you have the Agile and Scrum method, and this is more of a software development framework, and it's mostly used in software companies, especially like software startups. And basically the idea is you start out with like weekly sprints, you define your goals for the week. So, you would have like UX design goals, you have high priority goals, mid priority, low priority, and then you just kind of go after them. So something I want to also stress out is just like, a lot of times in UX design interviews, I always get asked like, okay, what's your general design process? Now, something I always say is like, I don't really have like a set in stone process, and it really depends on the project, the resources you have at your disposal, and the time you have. That really determines how you approach projects or how you approach design problems. But I think for me personally, my general pattern that I've noticed is usually I'll start out with like a lot of domain research, so I'll learn a lot about the space that we're trying to go after, who we're trying to design for, and then in the end I'll kind of go over and kind of do some ideation. So I usually like to sketch things out first. I like to sketch, and then I like to kind of show that to somebody, and then after that I would do like a wireframe and then show that to some stakeholders. And after that, once you get some feedback from that, then I usually like to do high fidelity designs and then show that again and see what changes need to be made, and then usually we have final designs. But again, it really depends on the project and what resources you have and what the project calls for. So now I'm gonna kind of give you a design demo, and I'm gonna kind of show you what a little bit about Figma and a little bit about design prototyping. So this is an app I created called Magic Potion, and basically the point of the app is that you have different perfumes recommended to you by your friends for different occasions. So like if you're going on a summer vacation, if you go on like a summer vacation, then you have different perfumes, and then if you're going out for like a night out, you have a different perfume collection. And then then you can also see your friends' collections, and then stuff they're adding to their collection and all of that. And you can also recommend stuff for your friends. I haven't really fleshed out this app too much, but I made this kind of as a concept to show you. So I'm just gonna duplicate the screen and show you how I created this this screen here, and then I'm probably gonna show you how to create this as well, because I really like this logo here. Let's just check chat really quick. No, I am not. I am a product designer. I am a junior product designer. I already went over that. And I'm a junior product designer. I'm currently kind of doing my own freelance projects right now, and I'm also helping out at a business AI startup. So yeah, there's that. I'm based in San Francisco too. So yeah. But basically you start out, and what you want to do is you have an iPhone 14 screen. So first things first, actually, I'll show you kind of the basics of Figma. So Figma has design, prototype, and then an inspect tab. So you have your tabs here on the right side. So this is the design tab. When you're in this tab, you're just designing. This is the prototype tab. This is where you're kind of like where you're mapping out the interactions in your design. And then this is for developers. So this is kind of like a developer specs tab, but you want to be in your design tab. And then this is the frame tool. So with the frame tool, you can select different frames you want to use. So like if I want to use an iPhone 14 frame, I can use that, or I can add an iPhone 14. Let's add an iPhone SE screen. I can do that too. And this will just be like the dimensions of this device. So like this screen size, and it'll just automatically add it for you. If I want to do maybe a desktop, so I want to do MacBook Air, I can do that. But yeah, that's like the frame. That's the frame tool here. And I believe that so if you click F, you can go to the frame tool. That's the short key on Figma. And then you have the shape tool here. So if you click on R, it goes to rectangle. And if you want to just drag out a rectangle, you can do that in Figma, and you'll create a rectangle. If you hold down Shift and do it, you'll get a square. So that's how you can create squares. And another thing to note is if you want to round off corners, you can just kind of select one of the corners and round them off, or you can go here and round it off. So you can do a 10. Say you only want to round off like maybe one corner, you can just select and do 20 here, and see, you only rounded off one corner. Then you also have the pen tool that allows you to draw things. So you can draw like various shapes, and I'll show you more in detail how to use this in a few minutes, because we will be using that a lot. And then you have your text tool here. You can just type text. My first design stream, and I can switch the text to different texts that you have. And then here you can kind of change the size of font and even the fill. Yeah, you get it. And then That's kind of like the basics that you need to know for now. But I used an iPhone 14 frame in the beginning, and I'm just gonna duplicate this frame. What I'm gonna do really quick is just take off everything on the frame and start from scratch and show you how I created this page. So, the first thing that I did was I actually rounded off the corners of this frame. Now this is something you can do if you want, like just for like stylistic effect, but you don't have to do this. And after that, what I did first was I wanted to create the menu, the top menu here. So let me just ungroup this and show you how I did it. Ungroup. 25. Okay. So something to keep in mind is when you are designing, a great rule of thumb is to make everything, space out everything in multiples of 8s. And this is just kind of like a common design and development tool, framework. It's like standard in the industry. And I think it's just a good rule to stick by. So I already created this logo somewhere else. I can actually go over and show you how I did it later, but for now, I'm just gonna make this 24. All right. And then we have occasions and friends. I'm gonna put that in line with the M, and make sure they're 24 apart. And something you can do, the great thing about Figma is that it has like a lot of guiding lines, so you can have like guides so you know that everything's aligned. And then did that as well. And we'll see how much space. 24. Okay. So I'm gonna put this in the middle. Wait, did I put this in the middle? Okay, wait, no, alright. I aligned it to the bottom. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and align this to the bottom. And it's 26 right now. Maybe make that 24. And that's a 24. Alright, so then say I wanna like group these. I just click shift. So I click on this and then I click shift, hold down shift, and I click the rest of these, and then I click Command G on Mac or Control G on Windows, and I can just make sure that this is a group. So I'm gonna name this, I'm gonna call this dashboard, and I'm gonna call this demo frame. So anything in here is what's on here. And so we have our dashboard and our demo frame. And I'll just show you quickly how I created this. So in group. So to create some separation between these two, between the sections, I just used a line. And you can create lines in Figma by going down on the rectangle tool and just selecting line, or you can click L, and that's the shortcut. So I hold down shift and I just drag out the line, and then I create that. Okay, this is 32. And then if I want to change the color and I want to match it to this one, I click on color here and I can select color. So yeah, that's how I created the first line. And then for creating this group, let's ungroup. So let's create this first square here. So I want to create a rectangle. So first I create a rectangle. And I'm just gonna make sure that it's the same dimensions as this. So that's the same width. Now I'm gonna make sure it's the same height. There you go. And we're gonna round out the corners to 10. And now if you want to place like a picture inside a rectangle, you have to go to fill, and then instead of solid you do image. And then you can put any image that you want in there. So I'm just gonna put in this mock-up frame really quick. So let's say I want to just put in this picture, or it might not work. Here, let's just put in a random picture. So let's put this in. So see, you can just make this a picture, but yeah, I made this perfume picture. So let's go on the internet actually real quick. Perfume picture. Okay, so and just take this one, image, save, and then you can just put it in. Alright, so you can do that. And something else I did was add a drop shadow. So drop shadows are just like a shadow behind, you know, this picture. So if you look at this, I just added a drop shadow. And if you look at the drop shadows, like right now it's 4, the y-axis is 4, so the shadow is below the image. I don't want the shadow to do that, so I want it to be like right behind. So right now it's 0, 0. And you can make the shadow blur up to 20 and bring down the opacity to 10. How much was the opacity here? Okay, so yeah, that's what I did there. And then I wanted to have this thing here. What I did was I added a square on top of it. And let's look at this square. So I rounded out all the corners in the square to 10. So do an option. Make this 10. And then round this out to 10 as well. And this as well. And then I made it white. And I also brought the opacity down to 60. And then I also added this text in group. So I added this text. Let's make a different text. Night on the town. Also, we're going to add an effect, so a drop shadow. What did I add? So a drop shadow of 4, 4, and 15. Right, 4, 4, and we want it to be 15. And then we also had background blur of 4. Okay. And then we want to add background blur. 4. Night on the town. Okay, so if you see this, the your text is behind your rectangle, so you want to make sure that your text is always in front. In this case, you want the text to be in front. Let's make this a little bigger. So you want to bring the text to the front, so you want to click bring to front, or this or back, or this key here on your keyboard would also work. Night on the town. And then another thing we did, let's just ungroup this. Then you just add another C collection. Now if you want to get this arrow here, something you can do is you go to plugins, you go to iconify, and you have an icon library basically. So say I want general, and I want arrow, so I can find an arrow. I can drag out that arrow. I usually like to drag it out of this box thing that it's in and delete that frame. And you have different types of arrows, you can decide, but I chose to go with this one. And then you just line these up, so this is like 8, you space it out so it's 8 pixels from the text, and make sure it's aligned to the center. And then Shift G will or Command G will create a group, and then you just align that group, so bring that to front and you align it to this text. Make sure it's at an 8. Command G, and now you can just group this. But yeah, you create these boxes too, so you just create the rest of these boxes. So how much space? Let's see. So that's a 5. And sometimes you might break spacing rules depending on, you know, just like look and the type of look you're going for. So in this case it's not evenly spaced out at an 8, but I guess that's alright. So here's what I did on this one. So to get this like 18 plus text visible on this box, what I did was first I created the picture, and how much space is here? 5. Alright, so I created the picture, and then I created, so I duplicated this box, and then instead of image I reverted this back to solid, and then you want it to be there. And so I made the fill black, I took out the drop shadow, and then I put the opacity down to 40, and then I put the box on top, and then put the text on top of that. And then, so yeah, I did that. And then you put that, how much space? Let's see. 16. Okay, so I placed this in the middle of the frame, and I made it 16 pixels down from the line, and then I put another line here that was 16 pixels, and then this is a group. So let's group this, Command G, and then I just created the other boxes here in a similar way. And okay, so now you have like all your boxes and all your collections. Now I want to create this this menu thing here at the bottom. So how I did that was, first I created a rectangle. Let's just go ahead and click that. What I did was first I created a rectangle, and I'm going to create one that's the same width and same height as this one. And then same height. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna round out the two bottom corners of this rectangle. So we're gonna round it out to 20, the bottom, and leave the top at 0. And we're gonna change the color. So, okay. Now, I want to go to plugins. I'm gonna go to Iconify. So I'm gonna search for home. And there's a lot of home. I'm gonna drag out, let's drag out same one. Let's drag this out, home. And then we want a search icon. So we want to do search. Let's drag this one. And then we want to do add. Let's get this add circle. Let's do this one. This one. Drag that out. And then we'll do heart. Let's do this heart. And then person. We'll do that one. When do you need a drop shadow? Oh, so you need a drop shadow when, so good question, Jack. You need a drop shadow really like when you want something to stand out. So like it's more like a stylistic choice a lot of times, and people will use drop shadows you know, when they want a specific element on the design to stand out or like look good. But I think like the general rule for drop shadows is to not use them too often. I feel like I'm breaking that rule a little bit here because I am using a lot of drop shadows, but in general, like you don't want to use it too much. You want to use them kind of sparingly so it's not like overpowering the design. But I think that's a pretty good question. I think the main point of drop shadows though is to make something stand out in a design. Anyways, so you do that. I'm gonna make what you want to do. I'm gonna make this the same size. Let's ungroup this. And what you want to do? So I'm gonna hold down Shift. So another pro Figma tip is when you're resizing objects, you want to hold down Shift into it so that you don't disfigure the object. Because if I resize it like this, it kind of, you know, it stretches not proportionally. But if I hold down Shift and stretch it, like I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, and it won't lose its shape, and it won't be disfigured. So just like go ahead, align these, and then you want to like, so this is a Source Sans Pro, so I'm gonna create home, and I'm gonna write the text. I'm gonna align it with the thing, and it's 8 pixels below the image. I'm just gonna make this white as well, and also add a line. How big? This is 18. Okay, so this is a group. G. And you kind of just want to do the rest. So I'm going to quickly do the rest as well. Okay. How much is the space is between these two? It's 40, okay. Just gonna do the rest of the icons. Make this search. I'm gonna add the fill. Okay, and then we're gonna group that. And then we're gonna have I'm gonna call it create. Just align this text and make sure it's in the middle of this. Command G. It's equally spaced. And I'm just gonna copy these two from here and make sure they're equally spaced. And then let's just create a group out of this. Command G. And then we want to put that group here. We want to align it so that the line is on the top, and then we want the whole group to be in the middle of this. So another pro tip, if you want to check where you are spacing wise inside an object, you can just click on this group, and then if I want to see like where it is in terms of spacing in terms of relation to this rectangle, I just click on this group and then click option, and I can see that I need to move a little bit more to be perfectly aligned. Okay, see, now I'm like in the middle of this rectangle. My group's in the middle. Command G, I have this group, and then I'm just gonna place this at the very bottom of this screen. And there you go. That's my dashboard, or my menu. Let's call it menu. And there you go. That is how I created this first screen. Now I kind of want to show you how I created just this object here, but before I do that, I will show you a little bit about Adobe XD, which is another visual design tool that's used. It's a very commonly used design tool. So it's basically the same thing as Figma, almost the same. Let me open I'm gonna show you. I'll show you guys elements because I'm gonna be going over how to create that in my next stream. So I might as well show that off. So Adobe XD is basically the same thing as Figma, and it has the design. It has a design tab, it has a prototype tab, it has a share tab. The share tab just allows you to share your prototype with anybody, so you can create a link. But it's basically the same thing. As you can see, I have a bunch of prototype interactions here on elements, because I created like a fully fleshed out design for this app. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. There's a few differences with Figma, the main ones being that your shape tools are here on this side, so you don't go up to create those. And then if you want a frame, you have to click on this, and then you can add like a frame. So say you want to add Galaxy S10, you can do that. But it's pretty much the same thing as Figma. If you know Figma, you can pretty much do Adobe XD. And I'm also going to do like a very in-depth tutorial with Adobe XD at some point. But yeah, if you know one of these tools, you can easily adapt to the other ones. But yeah, you have the main difference is just where the tabs are placed here. And there's some few other differences between Adobe XD and Figma, and I'll show you more of those as we go along. But yeah, that's pretty much what you needed to see for today. Anyways, I'll go back to showing you how to create this. So I use the pen tool to create most of this. What you want to do, so for the pen tool, right, you want to first start out by kind of creating, well, you can start out by creating this layer, this top, or kind of the bottle, depending on what you think is best. So I'm going to start by creating out the bottle, and then I'll create the top. But basically you use the pen tool. And for this, for my purposes today, I'm just going to go ahead and trace over this. But in most cases, you probably want to create this from scratch. Like what I like to do when I'm using the pen tool is like find a reference. So I'll actually go ahead and show you. So like, let's go say perfume bottle illustration, 3D illustration. And you can usually, I'm gonna go with this one. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and trace over my original that I had. Or maybe I should be able to find the one that I traced over. Let me go look at my files really quick. I will be back. Oh, okay. So just like a pro tip as a designer, a lot of times you want to like have reference pictures, so you want to start from somewhere, especially if you're creating like elements from scratch. You want to have like a reference, but you don't want to use that reference exactly the way you found it. So you want to add to it, or you want to change it in some way so that you can kind of use that. But let me and I'm gonna start. See, if you take a look at my element and you look at this one, it's two completely different things, but you can still see like this was inspired this. So I'm gonna show you exactly how I created it. So I started out and I just traced over this bottle. I might not do it super perfectly today, but in future streams, I'll probably want to be really perfect and precise. So I'm just going to trace over this bottle really quick. Another approach with the tip with the pen tool is that if you hold on a point and then you drag it down, you can kind of create different, like you can make the line slant in different directions. So I want it to like curve like this. So I have it curved like that. And then if you click option and then you hold on to this handle here, you can change the direction of the line. So as long as you know kind of your basics around the pen tool, which I will show you even in more detail as we go forward, you can create a lot of things, you know, in Figma itself. A lot of times people will like learn Spline or Blender to create 3D objects, but the thing is you can kind of get away with a lot of things in Figma itself if you know your tools, and I think that's extremely important. You do that. I'm not gonna make this super perfect this time around, but and then there you go, and then you click on done. That will be your bottle. Oh, another thing that I forgot to say is like a lot of times your lines don't have to be perfect because you're going to use layering, which I will show you in a second, to cover a lot of things. So if you see kind of like this whole thing going on, like this part of the bottle that's not perfect, you probably will not see that because I'm going to layer the top above it. Just going to trace this out. And I'm going to trace it in a way where I don't have to be super perfect. Just going to add this shape here. We're gonna clean this up. Okay. And you want to create this. Okay. Then you want to layer on top. So I'm going to put a circle. And okay. Alright. And then something I did is that I added 2 circles in the middle for just like kind of the spraying thing that they usually have on bottles. Okay, and you also want to add maybe a rectangle. There you go. I'm going to add that as a blur. And then I created the inside by just having this, by first putting on top, and then by adding a rectangle. Let's make this a different color for now. Another thing that's like kind of helpful about Figma is right now I just don't want to see this, so I can just hide it by clicking on the element and just hiding it really quick. And then I want to create the bottom half, so just go ahead, trace this out. So I used this as a reference, and I used like different elements of this, but I definitely changed it for my own purposes and added to it. And I don't really have to there you go. And then I'm gonna go ahead, create this. Another thing you can do is, if you think this is not round enough, you can just kind of round it out by using the handles. There you go. It kind of shapes it the way you want. So let's bring this to top, bring this to front. And let's make this. Now I'm gonna put this at white. How much opacity did I put here? 20. Okay. So I bring down the opacity to 20. And then this will also be at a white. And the opacity here is 50. And then we will take the stroke out. So this is like kind of the wave part. And if you want to create like a linear gradient, all you do is, instead of solid, you go to linear. Then you want to put this at the two ends of the shape. And you also want to make sure this is not at 0. I'm going to make this a red gradient. So there you go. It's a red gradient for you. And now I can create another gradient. I'm going to bring this shape up so it's not interfering. Bring this shape behind, actually. Let me put it and shape. And we'll do that in a second. So you want to do your linear gradient like that. And I want to start being lighter. This will be heavier. And there we go. So that's that. And then we'll create the bottle. It's 50. Okay. Stroke. Yeah, 50. Alright. And then just kind of wanna, if you wanna like mess with other layers inside of here and you don't want to mess with this, you can just lock this layer. Just bring this up. lock this for now. And I'm gonna bring these to the front. And then kind of bring these two layers to the front. Bring them to front. And let's like bring up the opacity of this. So maybe make it at like 80. Alright. I'm gonna bring up the opacity of this too. So it's at like 35. And you definitely want this to be up front. Alright. So there's that. And then let's create the top. So you just want to take out the stroke if you're just using like the main color. Just gonna color this. And what I did here was I also added this color. I made this like really light, and then I added a blur to it. Added a layer blur of 10. You probably want to make this a little smaller. Make this a layer blur. Make it 10. Okay. Here you go. And you want, this is like the darker part of the perfume stand. And this one's not going to be as perfect as this one because it had more time on this one. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be releasing this app UI in this coming week, just like putting it on social media. So I'm excited for that. I'm gonna bring this to front. I guess maybe you want to adjust this a little bit. Let's adjust this. And there we go. And then we just want to color this the same color and make it darker. Let me take this circle. Alright, and then you got your perfume bottle, and all I did after that was I added this M logo that I created as well. I'm going to bring this to front. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make this red. So maybe like dark red. And just add the circles behind it. But for now, I don't have to add that. But yeah, that's how you make this perfume bottle. And if you want to see it a little better, you should just put like a, oh wait, I forgot to unlock this. Silly me. Then if you want to see it a little bit better, all you have to do is put like a, send back, put a darker frame behind it so you could see the bottle. But yeah, that's kind of how you create it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this stream. I am gonna be seeing you guys for the next stream, and next week I'm gonna be showing you how I created this AR walking app. It's basically inspired by Pokemon Go. It's called Elements, and the whole point of the app is that you go to a different location, you collect like a virtual item, and then you can build things with those items. I'll show you how I created that. I created this app in Adobe XD, but I'm gonna try and recreate it in Figma next week for you. But I'm not just gonna show you how I created the app itself. I'll also show you kind of how I conducted research This was a personal project, so I didn't conduct like very in-depth research, but I think it'll be a great like starting point to go over how UX research works. And I'll show you also how to, you know, do more in-depth Figma stuff. But yeah, I hope to see you guys next week. I had a super fun time on this stream today. Super excited to see you guys again. Goodbye for now. See you guys next week, designers. Bye.